So 3 steps to getting things done. Now, I'm going to start off with something that is really mind-boggling that has been around since the 1970s, but you probably haven't heard about it. So it's called the emotional cycle of change. This is called the ECOC, emotional cycle of change. If you want to shorten it, just the ECOC. Don Kelly and Daryl Connor were the creators of the ECOC. They did this research, fantastic research, and they came up with this cycle of change that we go through. So whenever we say, I want to achieve this goal, or I want to have this thing in my life, this is what we go through every single time. And if you don't know that, then you often end up down here. And this is a bad place to be. It's called the Valley of Despair. So anyway, let's get started with this. And just want to make sure that you can actually see the whole thing here. So just one second. I think that Facebook is going to be different, but if you're live with me here, so yeah, just making sure. So this is time down at the bottom here, and this is emotion here. So let's talk about this from a standpoint of the first step. The first step here is called uninformed optimism. So whenever we go to do something, we are uninformed. Would you agree? So we're not informed, we're not educated, we don't know the way, we don't know how. And actually, I'm going to give you a solution to solve the how, because that's where most people have stopped. They stop right there. They're like, how do I do this? How do I lose 38 pounds? How do I hit my goal? How do I achieve this kind of income? How do I provide for my family? All these things come up. So uninformed optimism is the first step of the ECOC. We are not informed, and so guess what? We start going downhill. We think we are, we're optimistic. We're really excited. Somebody planted a seed inside of us, like Bob Proctor did years ago. He thought that I could be a coach, and he planted that seed 7-8 years ago. And now I'm here today teaching you. So, and I've written books. I have one co-authored book with Deepak Chopra, Jack Canfield, Dr. Denis Waitely. I've written my own book. I have another book coming out. These are the kinds of things that happen when you just step forward. And that's what I did. I just kept stepping forward, investing and stepping forward. And so uninformed optimism is where we start. And guess what? We slip down this slope very quickly because we are optimistic, but then we don't know what to do. And we ask the question, how? If you ask how too early, guess what? You go down. And that's what happens when you go down. You end up going into informed pessimism. You end up getting pessimistic about the possibilities, and especially the people around you. You know why? And I'll tell you why. And this is probably blowing your mind. We are pessimistic because the people around it, not only because we don't think we're worthy or we doubt ourselves, but the people around us, because they see us changing, they don't want us to change. That happens all the time. And it's not because they don't like us or don't want to help us. They're the closest people to us, but they have to change because we change. So if that makes sense, just put a 1 in the chat and let me know, because this is the kind of stuff that happens. We go to change, and I remember talking to friends of ours, and I said to them, the food you're eating, the things you're drinking, it's converting to sugar, and that's making you heavier, creating fat. And the wife, our friend, she said, well, okay, I'm going to stop that. I'm going to stop the drinking, right? And her husband, his face was kind of shocked. He said, you're going to do what? You're my drinking partner. We'd have fun on the weekends and drink. And so anyway, that's the kind of things we run into. So we go into this informed pessimism, and we don't know how to get out of that. So then what happens? We end up down here. We end up in the Valley of Despair. And the Valley of Despair is a very, very dangerous place to be, because you could as easily and quickly come right back up here and stay comfortable and not do anything. Excuse me. There's habit gravity. I'll say that again, habit gravity. So as you're going down, your habits are pulling you back, saying, oh, it's not so bad. Things aren't so bad. They were okay over here. I've had people in the fitness and wellness industry and nutrition business that, people would turn and look themselves in the mirror and say, oh, it's not so bad. and they're carrying maybe an extra 75 pounds of fat, and they're saying it's not so bad. So they convince themselves it's not so bad, and they go back here. And that's what can happen very, very quickly. So I know this is theory, but I'm going to give you some practical applications, so hang in there. So you could quickly bounce back to here where it's comfortable, your comfort zone, and your comfort zone is a little box where you stay inside of, and if you don't come outside of the comfort zone, you don't get to see what it's like outside the box. Make sense? So we get stuck in our comfort zone and we don't do anything, and then years go by and then we regret it. And that's what the number one regret that people in hospice have. People that are dying, the number one regret, the top 5, this is number 1, they regret taking risks and doing the things that would help them live the life they desired. Yeah, true. And it's not my research. I just found it in multiple locations. I proved, I basically proved that it's true. So keeping going. So we go from uninformed optimism to informed pessimism. And then if we don't get out of the valley of despair and into informed optimism, guess what? We go back here. So we need to go into informed optimism. And this is where I'm going to help you switch the how question. All you got to do is take the W the W and how at the end and swap it to the front and ask who. If there's one thing that you get out of this whole presentation, that's the critical thing. Ask who. Who's done this? Who can I mimic? Who can I follow? Who can I learn from? Who can I study? Because as soon as you find someone that you can mimic and follow and learn from, then you can keep going. You can get into this informed optimism phase where you start gathering information, data. Because you know what? Fear is the problem here. And the father of fear is doubt. And what is doubt? Doubt is lack of evidence. All we need is evidence, right? And so I'm perfect proof of that. I didn't go to resorts and travel the world until I met my wife. Well, guess what? She's from a tropical island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, Mauritius. Beautiful, most beautiful place. There's people that go there that are royalty from Europe. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Anyway, so look it up, Mauritius. So I go there for the first time in my life, and I get to experience golfing at the most pristine golf courses and hotels. When they say camping, it's a hotel. It's a resort. That's different from when I grew up camping. I grew up, with a dad who hunted, so I went camping, at a hunt camp or outdoors, and completely roughing. So anyway, so the whole thing is, if you can get into informed optimism, that's when you ask the who question and start finding ways, and you start actually building some evidence around the possibility, the potential of the thing that you want. And also, I want to get into a little bit of the mindset. So our mind is like a GPS. Think of it like Magellan. Most of you have heard of Magellan or have a GPS in your car or have had one. So a GPS always takes you to its destination, at least most times. Google's mapping. Google Map can mess up. But anyway, so it takes you to your destination. So think of your mind like a GPS. So if you start asking questions, and especially effective questions, you can turn on what's called the RAS, R-A-S. If you're going to write this down, RAS, Reticular Activating System. It's the Reticular Activating System. Technical term, but what it does is this. It actually answers all questions that you ask. All problems get started and solved through the Reticular Activating System. It taps into the deeper aspects of your mind. So if you can ask questions, then you can get your inner GPS working. And the way that it works is this. The more you think about something, the more you focus on something, the more you think about it and intend on it and expect it, the more potential it has. What happens in here will happen out here in your environment, your world, and with your body if you're actually going to do something that's physical. And it takes time for it to go from here to out here. That's all. And so if you can manage to keep going on this cycle, you'll end up over here, which is your success and fulfillment. And success and fulfillment is basically you crossing over. it's a bridge. This is a gap, right? And there are gaps in life. There are plenty of gaps, and you know it, and you've crossed many of them. And so what I'm suggesting to you here today is nothing new, but it's just a concept. It's a way of, thinking about things and asking different questions. Because when you ask questions differently,